They thought you'd chase them forever. They were wrong. How many nights did you stay up late wondering if they were thinking about you? Oh, the nights spent replaying every text, every conversation, hoping one day they'd finally see you the way you saw them. You convinced yourself it was just a matter of time, right? That maybe one day they'd wake up and realize they had something real with you. But the thing about love is that sometimes you give, and you wait and wait, hoping they'll eventually understand. You keep chasing, thinking that if you just love harder, if you just care more, maybe they'll come around. But here's the hard truth. They never will. Nah, they never saw you the way you saw them. To them, you were just there. A constant they could rely on, but never truly appreciated. You were a text to answer when they were bored, a call to make when they needed comfort, but they were never looking at you the way you were looking at them. And it hurts. Damn, it hurts to love someone so deeply only to realize they don't feel the same way or take you for granted. They thought you'd always be there, always willing to chase, to beg for their time and affection. They were wrong. One day, you woke up. Maybe it was a moment, maybe it was a slow realization over time, but you finally saw it. You deserve more. You deserve someone who sees your worth, someone who doesn't make you feel like you're chasing after something that will never be yours. You deserve someone who runs beside you, not someone who makes you chase them in circles. You thought you'd never stop chasing, didn't you? But the truth is, the second you stopped, everything changed. Oh, the freedom you felt when you let go. The weight lifted from your shoulders when you stopped waiting for their approval, their love. And you know what? They didn't even notice when you stopped chasing. They didn't see you slipping away because to them, you were just another part of the background. They thought you'd always be there, always willing to wait, to hope, to give. But nah, not anymore. The moment you stopped running, something inside you shifted. You found yourself again. You realized that you are the one you've been waiting for. The love, the affection, the care you've been giving to them. It was always meant for you. You are enough. They thought you'd chase them forever. They thought they could treat you like an option and still have you. But here's the thing. You stopped. And in that moment of stopping, you finally started living for yourself. No more waiting for them to change. No more hoping they'll see you because you've seen yourself. And that's all that matters. They thought you'd keep chasing. They thought they could keep walking away without a second thought, without facing the consequences. But what they didn't know is that you were never weak for loving them. You were strong for knowing when to walk away. And now you've found your peace. You'll never be the same after this. You've learned your worth. You've learned that you don't need anyone who doesn't need you. And you've learned the most important lesson of all. The love you've been chasing was meant to come from you. Now listen, if you've ever been in this situation, you know exactly how painful it is to realize your love isn't being returned. But let me tell you something. You are worth so much more than the chase. If you're ready to stop chasing, if you're ready to start loving yourself the way you deserve, then hit that like button and subscribe. Let's walk this journey of self-love and healing together. You've got this. It's time to stop chasing and start living for you. Number 1, the heavy weight of unreciprocated effort. You know that feeling, don't you? The one where you've given all of yourself over and over, only to realize that the person you've been chasing, the one you've been loving so desperately, has never truly seen you. They've never truly cared the way you cared for them, and you feel it deep down in your chest, like a crushing weight, a silent heaviness that no one else can see, but it's there every day. It never leaves. Unreciprocated effort isn't just about actions that go unnoticed. It's about the part of your soul you give away to someone who doesn't give it back. Every text, every phone call, every sacrifice of your time and energy, all of it begins to feel like a debt that will never be repaid, and it starts to weigh on you. You're running after someone who's walking away and you're too exhausted to even wonder why you keep doing it. Why do I keep chasing? That question loops in your mind, but it doesn't matter because you don't know how to stop. You tell yourself, if I just love harder, if I just try more, they'll notice me. But the pain of constantly running without ever catching them wears you down. It makes you question your own worth. Maybe you've convinced yourself for far too long that you are the problem, that your love isn't enough. But here's the brutal truth. It was never about you. It was about them. They didn't deserve your love, and the weight you've been carrying wasn't yours to bear. It's time to realize that real strength doesn't lie in running harder or chasing faster. The real strength lies in letting go. When you stop running, when you stop chasing, you finally set yourself free. You lift that weight off your chest, the one that's been suffocating you. You're not defined by how much you give, but by how much you are willing to keep for yourself. Number 2, the illusion of attachment. Oh, the illusion. How many times have you caught yourself believing that the more you gave, the more they would return? That somehow, with every gesture, with every word, you were weaving a stronger bond, one that would eventually pull them closer. But deep down, you've always known it wasn't real. It was never real. Attachment isn't love. Attachment is fear. It's the fear of being alone, the fear of being forgotten, of being unseen. When we attach ourselves to someone who doesn't value us, we become desperate to hold on, to fill the empty spaces in our hearts with something, anything, that feels like security. But that security is nothing more than a facade. The emotional roller coaster is unbearable. One moment, they make you feel special, like you matter. The next moment, they pull away, and you're left to question everything. Did I do something wrong? Why aren't they choosing me? But attachment makes you believe that this back and forth is love. You mistake inconsistency for passion, emotional distance for deep connection. You begin to ignore the red flags, telling yourself maybe next time will be different. And here's where it gets cruel. You can't see it until it's too late. The more you give, the more you lose yourself. You're no longer loving them, you're clinging to the idea of them. You're afraid of the void they've created inside you, and so you keep chasing, hoping that if you love them enough, they'll finally feel the same way. But that's the lie. The truth is that attachment to someone who doesn't reciprocate is just a prison of your own making. It holds you captive in a cycle of longing and disappointment. It makes you think that your happiness depends on them when, in fact, you are the one who has to release the chains. When you let go of that false attachment, you realize it wasn't them you were holding on to. It was the empty hope you placed in them. Number 3, the silent goodbye. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who never asked you to leave? A goodbye with no words, no dramatic final scene, just a quiet, steady realization that you've given enough and it's time to let go. It's the hardest kind of goodbye, the one that isn't shouted from the rooftops, the one that doesn't give you closure or answers. It's the one that haunts you in the silence. The hardest part isn't the moment you walk away, it's the part that comes before, when you've tried again and again to get them to see you, to make them realize that you've been there giving everything and you're finally exhausted. That moment when you decide enough is enough, when you stop hoping for something they will never give you. It's in that silence, the moment when you finally choose yourself over the endless waiting. Psychologically, the silent goodbye is one of the most painful things you can experience. It's like your heart is screaming for them to understand, but your mind knows they never will. They'll never see the tears you've cried in the dark. They'll never realize how much of your soul you gave. And that's okay, because you are done proving your worth to someone who doesn't see it. The Stoic view encourages you to accept this pain, to not run from it, but to sit with it. This too shall pass. They may never understand why you walked away, but that's no longer your burden. You have the strength to say goodbye without a word and endure. In doing so, you reclaim your power. Number 4, the power of patience in letting go. Letting go isn't a single, sudden act. It's not a moment of catharsis where everything makes sense in an instant. No, letting go is a slow, painful, beautiful process. It's a practice of patience, the kind of patience that doesn't look like waiting for them to change or come around. It's the kind of patience that comes from within, from knowing that deep down this wasn't right, and the only way forward is to choose yourself. Patience in letting go isn't about being passive. It's about realizing your value step by painful step. It's about accepting that you've given all you could, and now it's time to take back what was always yours. Your peace, your love, your heart. And that takes time. You'll feel the pull to reach out, to check on them, to ask if they're okay. You'll feel the urge to go back to the familiar place where they didn't love you the way you needed. But with patience, you remind yourself you deserve more. You are worth more than the emotional roller coaster, the endless hope. The Stoic approach is to master your emotions, not let them control you. Letting go is not about pushing away your feelings. It's about knowing you have the strength to sit with the pain, to let it flow through you and let it teach you. The true power is in learning to wait, not for them, but for your own healing. In the silence, in the waiting, in the letting go, you'll find yourself again. And that is the most beautiful thing you can give yourself. Number 5, rediscovering joy in solitude. When you stop chasing someone who never truly valued you, a strange thing happens. At first, it feels like the world is empty, like you've lost something irreplaceable, but eventually you realize that the emptiness wasn't a void. It was a space waiting for you to rediscover yourself. There's an unspoken beauty in solitude, in learning to be comfortable with your own company. For so long, you may have been consumed by the chase, by the hope that someone else's love would complete you. Every moment alone felt like a reminder that you were missing something. You couldn't see that the only thing you were truly missing was your own presence. When you finally stop chasing, you find that your heart, your mind, and your soul can finally breathe. You get to know yourself again, the person you had put on hold, the one who had been overshadowed by someone else's expectations and needs. Psychologically, solitude is both a challenge and a gift. It's a challenge because it forces you to face yourself, to feel the pain, the loneliness, and the heartache. But it's a gift because it gives you the time to heal, to rebuild, and to rediscover joy in the things that once brought you peace. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that true contentment doesn't come from the validation of others, but from finding peace within. They believe that self-reliance is the key to true happiness. You don't need anyone to make you feel whole. In the silence, you rediscover joy in your own existence. You start to enjoy the small moments, the peace in a quiet morning, the satisfaction of doing things just for you. You find strength in your solitude. It's not loneliness, it's liberation. It's the realization that you are enough and that no one can give you the sense of fulfillment that you can give yourself. And when you rediscover joy in solitude, you find the freedom to move forward without the need to chase anyone. Number 6, the beauty of a fresh start. The end of the chase doesn't have to be the end of something meaningful. In fact, it can be the beginning of something beautiful. It can be a fresh start, one where you are no longer shackled by the expectations of someone else, no longer burdened by the ghost of a love that was never fully returned. It's the start of a life lived on your own terms. At first, the idea of starting over can be terrifying. You're used to being intertwined with them, used to being in their world. But the moment you choose yourself, you open up the possibility for something new, something real, something better. The beauty of a fresh start is that it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't need to be forced. It's about making small decisions every day that bring you closer to the person you are meant to be, independent, whole, and unapologetically yourself. Psychologically, a fresh start can be daunting, as it requires you to let go of the familiar. But it also brings the freedom to create new dreams, new goals, and new people who will love you for exactly who you are. The Stoics would argue that life is a series of transformations, and that to grow, you must be willing to embrace change. Letting go of what no longer serves you is an act of strength, not weakness. A fresh start is a chance to realign your life with your true values. It's something you do not for them, but for you. In this fresh beginning, you reclaim control of your life, your future, and your happiness. And when you start again, you will look back on the chase not as something lost, but as a part of your journey that led you here, to a place of growth, wisdom, and endless possibilities. Number 7. Their late apologies and regrets. When you finally step away, when you've chosen your peace and walked away from the emotional chaos, something unexpected happens. They return. They come with apologies that are too late, with regrets that feel hollow, like words meant to ease their guilt, not to mend the wounds they caused. At first, it's tempting. You want to hear them say, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake." You want to believe that this time they've changed, that they finally see your worth. But deep down, you know the truth. These apologies are just words. The emotional reality of their late apologies is a strange one. You may feel anger, sadness, or even pity. Psychologically, you may want to forgive them, to let them back in, to believe that they've learned their lesson. But the reality is you've already learned yours. You've learned that words are just that, words. They mean nothing unless backed up by actions. And by now, you've seen enough of their actions to know they're just apologizing because they're uncomfortable with the consequences of their own choices. The Stoic perspective on forgiveness is simple. You forgive not for their sake, but for yours. You forgive because you're strong enough to release the past and move forward. But forgiving doesn't mean opening yourself up to more hurt. Forgiveness is a personal process, not a green light to let them back into your life. Their regrets are a reflection of their own growth, but they are not your responsibility. You've already grown beyond them, and while you may feel compassion for the person they used to be, you don't need to carry the weight of their mistakes anymore. Their late apologies are their burden to bear, not yours. You've learned that true closure comes from within. You don't need their apology to move on. You've already moved forward on your own, and that's where your real power lies. Number 8. Your legacy of strength and self-respect. When all is said and done, when the chase has ended and the dust has settled, there is one thing that remains: your legacy. And not just any legacy, but one built on strength, self-respect, and the unwavering belief that you are enough exactly as you are. Every time you stood up for yourself, every time you walked away when they didn't value you, you built your legacy. It's a legacy that says you value yourself enough to let go of what isn't meant for you. It's a legacy that says, I don't need someone's validation to feel worthy. I am enough, just as I am. Psychologically, this is one of the most empowering realizations you can have. It's the moment when you realize that your value is not tied to someone else's opinion of you. It's the moment when you start living life on your own terms, not dictated by the whims of someone who never truly saw you. The Stoic view on self-respect is clear. Self-respect is the foundation of all virtue. It's about understanding your own worth, regardless of external validation. When you respect yourself, you set boundaries, protect your peace, and refuse to let anyone dictate your value. In the end, your legacy isn't about who stayed or who left. It's about the strength you found in walking away. It's about the self-respect you nurtured by choosing yourself first. You will look back on this time not with regret, but with pride, knowing that you had the courage to step away and find your own peace. And that is a legacy no one can ever take from you. They thought you'd always be there, running after them, but you've shown them and yourself that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else. If you've ever experienced this kind of transformation, share your story in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you're not just an option, you're a legacy.